Greetings everyone, my name's Rilo, and today we're going to talk about Crimson Desert again. So when Crimson Desert first launched, the reaction from the player base was pretty complicated. On one hand, people loved the scale of the world and the ambition of the game, but on the other hand, it launched with a number of problems. Performance hiccups depending on what system you're running it on, some clunky, unintuitive menus, frustrating progression bugs, and some systems that just didn't really feel fully polished, I guess. And at this point, we've seen this story quite a bit. A game launches rough, players complain, and the developers slowly disappear, or at the best case scenario, slowly fix the game. Examples that come to mind are Cyberpunk 2077, where it took them a couple years, but it is a great game now. Or you have the bad side of that, where you have like Dragon's Dogma 2, where Capcom just seemingly abandoned the game. But that's not what happened here. Since release, Pearl Abyss has been consistently patching the game and, more importantly, fixing the specific things players were actually complaining about. So today I want to break down what the patches actually changed and why the post-launch support from Crimson Desert has been surprisingly strong and honestly deserves to be celebrated. Don't get me wrong, Crimson Desert's launch wasn't a disaster by any means. The game was perfectly playable, at least in my case. However, after reading some of the forums and reading some of the reviews, there was definitely some issues. Now, it is a little hard because some negative reviews are just people that had different expectations of the game, where they wanted like a strong narrative focused game, and let's face it, Crimson Desert's narrative isn't too great, so obviously they're going to dislike the game, especially if they didn't know this is like a more sandboxy game. But let's focus on more of like the technical side of it, I guess. So apparently progression bugs were you would have players with quest not triggering correctly or objectives failing to update. I've actually had this issue where I would do something that the objective is asking me to, but it's not triggering it in the quest for some reason. Sometimes whenever like I would go back to camp, sleep, and then come back, that would usually fix it. But there have been times where I've had to walk away from quest just because I'm not sure if I'm not doing something right, or if there is actually like a bug issue or something there. So I totally get that. And then obviously we have controls and responsiveness. Combat seems like a little awkward sometimes, especially when chaining abilities or navigating through your menus. Like I know, like at least for me, like when I'm trying to dodge out of the way, sometimes my character just feels stuck, even though I have full stamina. So that's definitely, and I guess combat has also been streamlined a bit more because a lot of people were complaining that it seemed a little over-designed at first. And then we had like some quality of life frustrations where the inventory system seemed a little bit limited early on. Fast travel options were more sparse, and navigating the UI could feel a bit more complicated than it needed to be. None of these issues completely ruined the experience, but together they did make the game feel a little more frustrating than it needed to. Fortunately, the developers didn't waste much time addressing those problems. Even before most players had really gotten too far into the game, Pearl Abyss released a massive Day 1 patch. And this update tackled a lot of gameplay systems right away, combat being one of the first areas to get attention. Several characters, including Cliff, received some new follow-up skills, which was really cool. Skill menus were reorganized so abilities were easier to find, and the watch and learn system, which allows players to learn abilities from enemies, was adjusted to work more smoothly. Boss fights were also tweaked, so encounters like the Reed Devil, which kicked my ass numerous times. I did beat it pre-patch, but I did have to have a lot of food on me. That was a frustrating boss though, and I could definitely see where it needed to be a little more balanced, and obviously that is something that they worked on. There was multiple quest progression issues that were fixed, and they added a tutorial quest explaining the Abyss gear system later in the story, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I could see that being a massive dub. For a launch patch though, I mean, it was surprisingly substantial. Now that was patch 1.00.01, and now we have the patch 1.00.03. I know, very confusing. But this patch focused more on quality of life improvements. One of the biggest additions that players were asking for almost immediately was a better storage system. The update added private storage, giving players roughly 240 additional inventory slots to store items, which was massively really good, especially like before you get to the camp. Like I noticed for me, I had to sew a lot of stuff that like would have been good to give to the camp rations, so this was definitely a welcome change, and it's nice not to have to worry about storage, honestly. It makes managing inventory way better, because honestly before this it got frustrating pretty quickly, especially as you started collecting crafting materials and gear. Adding a dedicated storage system dramatically improved the flow of the game though. Fast travel also saw some improvements. Developers added additional Abyss Nexus fast travel points across the world, making it easier to navigate the massive map without spending huge amounts of time traveling back and forth. This is pretty amazing because I do like I do like traveling through the map on my horse, but sometimes, you know, especially if I'm doing a really long quest chain and I'm going back and forth to like a really long destination, just give me the ability to teleport there. It's fine. I definitely appreciate this. Controls were another big focus on this patch. Keyboard and mouse responsiveness was improved. I didn't even dare try keyboard and mouse I didn't even try to play this game on keyboard and mouse. No way. I've been controller the whole time. But I've definitely felt the game feel a bit more responsive, so that's good. So after that patch, we have patch 1.00.04. So this patch was actually just a quick hotfix, so nothing major compared to the first two that we received. However, this patch did address a specific bug that only affected certain people. So in some situations, when players switch back to Cliff, it could prevent them from interacting with objects or NPCs. Now, this obviously wasn't a massive issue affecting everyone, as I didn't really see much about this, and it also obviously didn't affect me. But when it happened, it could essentially soft lock you and halt your progress, so it's cool that the developers pushed this out quickly. It kind of shows that they're paying attention to even minor reports. And then we move on to our 1.01 patch, which is considered a major update patch. And in this patch, they went beyond bug fixes and started including new content and gameplay improvements already. Movement and traversal were improved across the board. Traveling just overall consumes less stamina. Sprint controls were refined a bit more, and players can choose between tapping or holding sprint depending on their preference. Loading times are also reduced quite a bit. This is something that I've noticed substantially, because when I first started this game, my loading times were abysmal. I didn't mind because the Abyss screen is kind of cool, but yeah, that is something that I've noticed they've been improved quite a bit. But also we had improvements to the minimap and menu navigation overall. The biggest addition, though, we got 5 new mounts, which is really cool. It's awesome to see like free new content already in this game. It's not something that I think we're used to. There was also some interesting gameplay tweaks here. For example, the crime system was adjusted so that stealing only gets you into trouble if an NPC actually witnesses it, which is, you know, I haven't tried doing this yet, but this does make the game, I think, feel a bit more... I hate saying real because it's a fantasy game, but I guess it is more realistic, obviously, that to get caught stealing an NPC should actually witness you doing it and report it, so that's a good change, I guess. You know, and the developers even replaced a handful of AI-generated paintings that actually made it into the game instead of the proper art assets, which, you know, it's a tiny detail, but it's good that they pulled it before people started to complain, as this happened to Expedition 33, and this actually made it so they lost one of their game awards. So it's nice that they caught this detail early, and it shows that, you know, they do care about that type of thing, which is cool. What's most impressive about these updates isn't just the changes themselves, though. It's the consistency. I mean, this game hasn't been out a month yet, and these patches have been pretty massive, all things considered. I mean, the patches haven't been like massive expansions or anything, but they've been focused on player feedback, like direct player feedback. You know, better controls, better progression, better quality of life features, and even new content. The developers have also acknowledged some ongoing technical issues like compatibility with certain GPUs and confirmed they're continuing to work on fixes. In an industry where some studios just completely go silent after launch, this kind of communication matters. So to wrap this up, I want to reiterate, Crimson Desert didn't have an abysmal launch, but it also didn't launch as perfectly as it could have, and it looks like the developers, in this case Pearl Abyss, also noticed that. You know, with these updates, we've seen better combat, better inventory management, better traversal, new mounts, and dozens of bug fixes. This is the kind of post-launch support that we always say we want to see more of, and now we're finally getting it. And you know, if Pearl Abyss keeps this pace up, I mean, I don't think people are even going to remember the mixed launch. I think they'll just remember the game as being a really ambitious game that actually meets its ambitions. But that's all I got for today. If you like this video, like and subscribe, and I want to hear your thoughts. Have you been enjoying Crimson Desert? I got about 25 hours into it so far, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. And, you know, it sucks I'm super busy right now, and I can't put as much time into it as I want to, but the more I get into it, definitely the more I've been enjoying it. So, thank you for watching.